And another real life story about skiing. 1972, springtime of 1972, I was finishing up my sophomore year at Rutgers University. And I'd already been part of the ski club there and had taken a couple of weekend trips with them. And one of the things they were doing at the end of the semester was they were going up to Tuckerman's Ravine in New Hampshire. It is a part of Mount Washington, and of course, Mount Washington is the tallest mountain in New England. As far as I know, there's only one other mountain that's somewhat taller, and east of the Mississippi, and that is it's either Virginia or North Carolina. It is right on the border. It's called Mount Mitchell. But for the Northeast, Mount Washington is number one. I think it's 6,200 plus feet in elevation. And some of us from the ski club were heading up, and somebody had a van, I think it was a Volkswagen van, I'm not sure, but I think there were 6 or 7 of us at least who were going together. And a buddy of mine, Will Schreiber, who now lives, or at least the last time I was in touch with him, he lives in Scottsdale, Arizona. He and I are the only 2 people in the van who stayed up all night to get up from Rutgers up to Mount Washington. And then you got something to eat, and we had reservations, or I guess we made reservations to stay in the lean-tos up there so that we could ski Tuckerman's Ravine. And you have like 60-pound packs. You got food, you got clothing, you've got ski equipment, you got boots, you got skis, you got poles. Most people had at least 60 pounds carrying up I think it was a 2.5 mile hike up to the lean-tos. And Will and I had stayed up all night. Nobody else did. They fell asleep in the van. But he and I shared the driving during the middle of the night so we could get up there at daybreak. Anyway, got settled in the lean-tos and then went up on the slopes. I remember we were skiing the Hillman Highway. And then at some other point, we went over to the actual, what'd they call it? The head wall area. And it's just a great big bowl. And at that time, they would not even let people in there until, I think it was May, at least the beginning of May, because of avalanching. That's how steep it is. I had only been skiing for 2 years, probably a little bit over my capability, I think. But we did okay. If you fell on the head wall, you just kept sliding. That's for sure. I remember that. And the snow, because the snow was old, you really didn't want to wear short sleeves or short pants because the corn snow would tear you up. It would take your skin and turn it into ground beef. Anyway, we skied that day and came down, I'm going to guess, late afternoon and made some dinner. And Will said he wanted to go out for a hike. And I said, well, I'll take a little hike with you. He said, no, I'm going up to the top, up to the weather station on top of Mount Washington. And I said, no, you're not. We had stayed up the entire night before. We had skied and were tired from the skiing and the hiking. So anyway, we start heading toward the head wall, and then Will starts going up this landslide off to the right. And we got about halfway up that landslide, and I kind of had an argument with him because there's no way he was going to get up to the weather station up on top of Mount Washington. It wasn't going to happen. It was going to get dark fairly soon, and we were extremely tired. He would not stop, and I figured if he went up by himself, he could twist an ankle, break a leg, fall down and gash his head, and nobody would know, and he would die up there. So I went with him, reluctantly. We got up to the top of the landslide, And he finally acknowledged that he was not going to make it all the way to the station, so our plan was to go around the head wall and come down the Hillman Highway. Okay, that could work. However, neither of us had been all the way to the top of the Hillman Highway. We didn't know what it looked like. As dusk was setting in, we got across the top of the head wall and realized that we had no idea where we were. We started to go down what we thought was the Hillman Highway, and it wasn't. And now it's almost dark, and we get down, and it's like, oh, well, it must be in the next ravine over to our left. So we keep in mind, you're now walking through unadulterated snow, and frequently it's going up to your knee. Sometimes it's going up to your crotch. That's how deep the snow was. And it wasn't packed down because no one had walked or skied over there. It's now almost dark. We get up to the top of that ridge, and we realize that the valley that we're looking at there is also not the right valley. There were no lights at all. We would have to go down and up the next ridge. By then it was completely dark. 100%. Total darkness. Somewhere along the line, my flashlight, I was the one who ordered both of us to bring flashlights. He was just going to go for a hike. I insisted that we bring flashlights because I was a good Boy Scout. I had made it all the way up to Life Scout, which is the rank just below Eagle. And I had my 10 merit badges, but I don't believe I ever went beyond that. But Boy Scouts was an important part of my life, at least for a while. My batteries started dying on my flashlight. Will's flashlight was still going okay. We go down into the valley and come back up that next ridge, and it looks like we might, that third valley might be the right one. But I was so wasted, I was so exhausted that putting one leg in front of the other and sometimes sinking all the way up to your thigh or to your crotch was just exhausting. We started going down to what we hoped would be where the lean-tos are. And one time I just had to rest. I begged him, I have to sit down and rest. I have to sit down. Next thing I know, he's slapping me awake. That's how exhausted I was. We continued to trudge on, and it was absolutely brutal. And somewhere along the line, I'm realizing this is exactly how people die up on Mount Washington. They do something stupid. And what we were doing was completely stupid. We had been up the entire night before. We skied, we hiked, and now we're hiking at night in the dark. My flashlight is totally kaput. Almost hallucinating. I'm so tired. And eventually we found a road. I guess it was a fire road or something. And we followed it to the lean-tos. But we could have died up there. The following day, there had been like helicopters and search parties during that first day. They were looking for something. And the following day, they found it. There was a graduate student, I think from Connecticut or Massachusetts. He had been with a couple of other people, and apparently he was on snowshoes in May. The snow is really kind of slick. They found his body down, how do I describe it? At the head wall, the snow actually pulls away from the rock. The rock face is almost vertical. The snow pulls away, and there was an opening, and apparently this graduate student had slid down the snow and fell between the snow and the rock, and they found his body that following day. That could have been Will Schreiber and me. We did something really stupid on our first day at Tuckerman's Ravine. I have since been there, I think three other times, I believe, and never did anything quite that stupid. And I try to be prepared and think ahead. That's wisdom for all of us. Thanks.